7 o'clock, let's call the meeting to order. Michelle, will you read the sunshine law notice?
This is a workshop meeting of the Mayor and Council of the Borough of Keyport, Tuesday, August 1st, 2023. Let the minutes show that adequate notice of this meeting as required by Public Law 1975, Chapter 231, has been provided by the meeting notice which was posted on the bulletin board filed with the Borough Clerk and sent to the Asbury Park Press and the Star Ledger.
Thank you. Will you do the roll call, please?
Councilmember Demarest. Councilmember Riley.
Here.
Councilmember Vecchio.
Here.
Councilmember Pepperoni.
Here.
Councilmember McNamara.
Here.
Council President Davidson.
Here.
And Mayor Aranian.
Here.
Thank you.
Okay, will you join me in the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I'd also like everybody to remain standing for a moment of silence for Lieutenant Governor Sheila Oliver, as well as our ex-fire captain, Richard Wilson. Thank you. Since it is Overdose Awareness Month and International Overdose Awareness Day, I'm going to ask our Municipal Alliance Council Member Vecchio to read the proclamation.
Borough of Keyport Proclamation, Overdose Awareness Month and International
from Henschel and Bucelato with regard to a leak survey, to as recent as March of 23 with an infrared survey. So you've also had reports done by CME Associates and Eagle View report, which actually gave you the area of the roof and so forth. So you've had very extensive reports done, 7 of them that I count. From 07 to 23, they've done a couple things. Number one, they've gone and detailed the area of the roof. They've gone and detailed all the leak locations. They've gone and detailed the status of the insulation on the roof. Is it wet? Is it dry? Where's the wet insulation? They've gone and made recommendations to make repairs. But none of the 7 reports, there's been no action on any of the 7 reports.
Since 2007?
Well, the initial report, Henschel and Bucelato leak survey, 42607, CME Associates, 1 on 5/1/19, 1 on 5/2019, New Jersey Infrared Survey, 1 on 7/15/20, and another one on 3/20/23. Eagle View report, which assesses the area of the roof, on 12/7/22. and USA contractor replacement estimate on 3/10/23. So you've gotten analyses done of the roof, you've gotten quotes done to replace the roof, you've gotten leak surveys done by experts, some of them I know very well, and you've had recommendations for action. And I was at this facility as well. I was up on the roof 8 weeks ago, something like that. I was up on the roof. I did see, and Kim has been so kind as to send me active leak photographs of videos. Very nice. So we did see those as well. We did notice a couple things. Number one, we've read all the reports. Number two, we saw a roof leak on the first floor, which is nice when it leaks on the first floor, but it's not the roof above. So I did speak to some of the writers of the reports, namely Paul Bucelato, with regard to the leak survey. The leaks that you have on the first floor are due to the older rooftop units that are on your roof right now that haven't been, some of the rooftop units have been replaced, others haven't been replaced. And the only way that you have a leak on the first floor when you have 1 story above it is if when the water gets into the rooftop unit, it travels down the supply duct, the vertical supply duct. It travels along the horizontal beam. All the edges of the beam are rusted, which means the water sits there constantly, and then it drips down. There's nothing magic about it. So the majority of the leaks that we see interior to the building, not on exterior walls, are due to some of the older rooftop units. After reading the reports and seeing the leaks, that need to be studied in terms of their age and removed and replaced. Okay, so so together with a roof replacement, I see everyone has made recommendations to repair the roof. Look, you need to replace the roof. You need to replace the roof, you need to replace the roof curbs, you need to do an investigation on the rooftop units, some of the rooftop units that are older that need to be replaced, that will mitigate your interior leaks on the first floor from the roof. So that's number one. Number two, you have some leaks in the basement that are due to water that's coming in horizontally from electric conduit for panels outside that come in. It travels along the conduit and comes in and drips where it wants to drip. That's easy to fix. Okay. So the proposal we gave you is twofold. Number one, it's a proposal to do a complete roof replacement project. So we'll take off the existing roof with all of the insulation and replace it complete. It also includes, so as to control your budget, it also includes an older rooftop unit RTU evaluation by our mechanical engineer. He will make recommendations to us as to which can stay, which are recommended to go, and then those will have costs to it as well. But there won't be any mechanical engineering to replace those. That'll be based on your budget availability to do it. So we want to be very cautious with regard to your budget to make this repair. And thirdly, we'll make any of the non-roof repairs as well, which means that when we replace the roof, all of the flashing against any of the walls will be something called through-wall flashing. Right now, there's most likely a reglet into the wall. Through-wall flashing goes into the wall, through the wall, and the water will come back out, and the roof won't go adjacent to the wall. So those are some of the changes that we'll make. But the proposal that we gave you is a roof replacement for of course, for the design services for a roof replacement and the construction administration services, and we will either go out to bid or we will go to a state contract vendor that we've used before to get a quote to execute the roof. And then we'll get recommendations from our engineer on which rooftop units to replace, and then get you those potential costs for your evaluation before we move that any further. Right? So there are a couple components to that. Not only have I read the reports, but I've been here personally, not wearing a jacket when I did it, but so I was up on the roof and I was in the rooms as well. So that just gives you an overview of what we've seen, what we've read, what our recommendations are, and these are recommendations for action. And again, although I've read all the reports, there's been no action taken with regard to corrections.
When you were reviewing everything, did you happen to notice, in the reviews that they wrote, that it was not the roof in some areas, or is it really just the roof and the units?
The roof and the units are probably 75% of it. I would say that maybe 10% is some of the vertical walls, some exterior penetrations on the vertical walls. I'd say the remaining percentage is roof to wall flashing, right? But because you had some interior leaks on the first floor from the second floor. And again, the only way that happens is through a vertical element that penetrates the second floor to the first floor, right? It's a supply duct. But we did read through the reports were good and they were extensive.
Okay. So the budget that you have is between $400,000 and $500,000, and this $55,000 is your professional services that comes out of that $400,000 or $500,000?
No, the $400,000 to $500,000 is construction costs. Okay, and that is for the roof replacement. On average, to replace a roof with a multi-ply built-up roof with a white cap sheet or a high SRI cap sheet is somewhere between $40 and $50 a square foot on average with prevailing wage. Right. Those roof costs can be mitigated if you go from 3-ply to 2-ply to 1-ply and so forth, and we can have those discussions to make sure that the roof replacement matches your budget, right? So what we're giving you our recommendation with regard to our budget recommendation for a 25-year multi-ply built-up roof, which we feel is the best roof for any government building. But again, if and when there are budget constraints, we can look to dial back the roofing that goes on here. Your warranty would be slightly less, and redundancy would be slightly less.
So what is the warranty on that?
So the warranty is that the roofing warranty is a 25-year warranty, which means in the course of those 25 years, with the exception of people coming up and dropping axes, picks, or anything on the roof, if the roof leaks, there is a hotline that you call, whether it's Tremco, whether it's Garland, whether it's Carlisle, any of those manufacturers. You'll call that hotline. They will come and repair the roof at no cost. You've already prepaid for that warranty. Similarly, when we put jobs out to bid, we'll require a 2-year maintenance bond, which means the general contractor or the roofing contractor that's done the work within the first 2 years has to come back and fix any issue at no cost to you. You'll purchase that bond as well when we go out to bid for the project. Right? So there are multiple things in place that will allow you to reach it back out to the roofing manufacturer or the contractor within the first 2 years to come back and make repairs if there's any issue.
Does anybody have any questions from the desk?
So if the roof, with the 2-year bond, if for some reason we have a massive hurricane in year 3, is the roof, what are the hurricane standards for the roof? And I'm sure it's standard for the state of New Jersey, but if there's a problem in, year 3, day 1.
The roofing is rated for the wind load in the area, so you're pretty much the highest rating given the proximity to the water that you have, and that's the only roof that Tremco or Garland or Carlisle would warrant. So their warranty takes into consideration the proximity that you have to the water, but anything in excess of that, right? Let's say it's 2 times the wind speed. I can't predict what they're going to do, but I'm just saying to you, the warranty is a couple things. During the installation process, we do require that Tremco, Garland, Carlisle, that they inspect the roof as it gets installed, so they don't just come by at the end. They'll only warrant the product and the project if when they come. We require inspections by the roofing manufacturer, so they'll come here 4, 5, 6 times, different points during construction. They'll inspect it, and then they will only issue the warranty at that point in time. So this way, they warrant the product that they've seen go in from start to finish.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
So the rooftop units, I appreciate, looking at them to see which ones can stay, which ones go. Do you have any indication, how many units is it? I mean, what does a unit cost and how many units are there?
The unit cost varies based on the tonnage of the unit, so I couldn't tell you what the range would be. I don't want to guess here.
Well, how many units are on the roof, do you know?
Some of the units on the roof are newer and they have been recently replaced, and those units don't have an issue.
But how many total, she's asking, are up there?
I don't have that number offhand. But here's also what I'll tell you. When rooftop units are placed on a roof initially, they're placed on a roof curb that is 8 to 10 inches from the finished roof elevation. That is similar in size to the rooftop unit. When rooftop units are replaced and the roof curb isn't replaced, they're placed on something called the curb adapter, which means if the box is bigger or smaller than the old box, the curb adapter will take up the size between the new box and the old box, giving you a potential cause for a leak, right? So what we've seen is some of the older units haven't recently been replaced, and they're on curb adapters, which means it also adds to the potential for leaks in those locations.
So just a question,
Yep.
we're replacing the entire roof in this proposal.
Yes.
So wouldn't we be replacing curb adapters and things like that? Wouldn't we redo at least what it's on?
We
if
would
it's not right?
remove the curb adapters,
Right.
and we would put new curbs under the existing units. The services would also include a mechanical engineer to review the older units and give us a budget for replacement of those units, so that you can evaluate. We can say, look, we know the one unit that's leaking the worst. We can say we would recommend to replace that unit because it's not a scenario that it's another $50,000. It may be $150,000 or so to replace the unit. So it's not a scenario that's going to be $10,000, $20,000. So we want to give you those options, and we're going to give you prioritized recommendations because you don't have the budget to replace all of the older rooftop units.
But all of the curb adapter or whatever would be replaced.
The only curb adapters that we would eliminate. Curb adapters are only a variance between the curb on the roof and the change in the box size, right? So the intent is to remove them and put the existing units on a curb that fits them. We would only do that for the older units. I wouldn't do that for the newer units.
And that's separate from the cost of the roof?
No, that's
$400 to $500.
that's part of it. Keep in mind, in order to do that, if the contractor is able to is able to take and move those units up. They have to disconnect the units, they have to move them up off the curb adapter, and then put them back on the curb, and put a new curb on. It takes time, it takes machines to do it, and so forth, so that increases the cost. But what we want to do is our mechanical engineer is going to review all the older units, not the newer ones, the older units, and make recommendations and budgets to you on which ones we feel we should replace, because I want to do it at the same time. All right, so here's also one I'm going to tell you. Rooftop units and electrical panels are one of the longest lead times with regard to today's construction industry. So what we've been doing for all of our public sector clients is we've been bifurcating roof replacement and rooftop unit replacement. What does that mean? That means I could replace the roof and I can do it in a month, but if I want to replace the rooftop unit, I might have to wait 10 months to get that product. Okay, so when I say bifurcating, that means that we would do the roof replacement, we would do all the make-ready work for the new box, if you will, and then when the new box comes in, we would put it on. So that has to be evaluated as well. Yes, sir.
So this price here that you gave us, does it include removing any mechanicals?
No.
Just say we keep everything the same, the pot,
Yes.
they're the same. Does that price include that?
The fee that we gave you is a professional services fee to do the drawings and the construction administration for a roof replacement and to do the mechanical evaluation by our mechanical engineer for the older rooftop units to make a substantive decision as to which ones we think are leaking and then give you a budget to replace them.
Well, let's say we're keeping everything the same.
Mm-hmm.
Does this price reflect craning in, pulling these off, disconnect, all that, and then putting them back on?
Only the older ones.
So the newer ones, that's...
Newer ones I'm not going to touch because there's no issue with the newer ones leaking. It's only where the older
Are they
ones
sitting
are.
on the roof now?
The newer ones are sitting on a curb adapter and sitting on a curb, but there's no issue with regard to leaks. And frankly, we're not going to touch those.
Okay.
You don't want to touch those. The only ones that we're going to target are the older ones on the curb adapters, because if I'm going to lift the unit off the roof and I'm going to replace it before I put it back.
Yeah.
Right. So I'm going to take the time and the money to take it off the roof to put a new curb. I'm going to do it with a new box, not an old box. Right. So the new boxes that are on the curb adapters, I'm leaving.
Because the labor's there, you're just paying for the unit.
Say the last part again, please.
Because the labor's there, you're just paying for the unit, because they gotta come off no matter what.
Yes, that's correct. So if you're spending the labor, and we'll make these recommendations to you with regard to the rooftop units we think we would recommend that you replace, okay? If there's one unit that we think is an older unit that's causing your substantive leak, we're gonna make a recommendation that you replace that. And your budget's gonna get increased based on the increased cost for the product, for the unit itself, right? The budget that we gave you is for roof replacement. So unfortunately, it's not, I'd like to tell you it's a straightforward roof replacement project, but the 7 reports that I read tell me it's not.
In the last report,
Mhm.
I think it was the last report, maybe, they talked a lot about having water between the stucco and the flashing.
Mhm.
Is that what you guys saw too? And
We-
will this be able to help that, or is that its own separate?
So the roof replacement is a combination of, the roof replacement, everything comes off to the deck, including the insulation and recovery board, right? New recovery board, new insulation goes back, new multiply built-up roof membrane goes back. Also includes any of the copings and the counter flashings and flashings. So typically you can go trace these, typically with regard to a multiply built-up roof, the location of the leak isn't, the location where the leak manifests itself isn't necessarily the location that the leak has occurred,
Okay,
right? So you'll be
just found that spot.
interestingly enough, I mean, you can do a spray test on the roof, and you do it in quadrants, and you eliminate quadrants based on we know where the leaks are, right? So some of these leaks are fairly systemic, and although I've read all the reports, at the end of the day, look, I think we can fix most of your issues with regard to a roof replacement. The roof, I think it's close to its useful life, but not there yet. But you've had some substantive issues, and I'm not going to tell you that. And I think partly you've gotten 6 reports, partly because everybody's giving you recommendations, and they don't want to say, look, if you do this, this, and this, it's going to stop. If you do a roof replacement, I can catch the issues and I can expose the issues.
So do you believe by having the roof replaced,
Mhm.
this is going to solve the issue?
I believe the roof replacement will solve the majority of the issues. I believe that some of the issues are attributable to the older rooftop units. The replacement of some of the older rooftop units is going to be contingent upon your appetite to increase the budget to replace those units. And
So if we don't replace all of the units that are up there, the older units, and we pick and choose one or two, we could still potentially have.
you may, but we're going to prioritize the best to the worst. All right, but if I gave you a budget to replace the roof and then to replace all those older units, I don't think that you'd have the appetite to do that to start, right? So I kind of got to do this as efficiently as possible, so that it can fit into your budget as well as possible.
What's the per diem rate for this? The per diem rate
For what?
for the labor an hour?
I couldn't tell you. It's prevailing wage.
Oh, prevailing wage, I'm sorry.
Yeah, it's prevailing wage. It ranges. I mean, I don't know what the rate is.
But it's all included in
Yeah.
this budget.
Yes. So the number that I gave you that ranges between $40 and $50 a square foot for removal and replacement and multiplied built-up roof is based on prevailing wage in today's economy, which tends to have gotten away from yesterday's economy. So yes.
Now, if we were to move forward, when would the start phase be? Like, would it start 30 days from now, 60 days?
You're talking about the design or the
The design and the project.
So we would get the design into our office, which would take a few weeks to just get it into our schedule. We're going to do existing conditions first. We would probably need about a month to 6 weeks to put the drawings together and to do the mechanical analysis of the older rooftop units. When my recommendation, we've had very good success with a state contract vendor under the Bergen County Consortium. So if that's something that you're not a member, you could always be a member of that at no cost. We have this one contractor doing roofs for multiple municipalities and boards of education right this summer, and he's doing a good job for us. We'd make that recommendation to go to that roofer first under the Bergen County Consortium, get a quote, and as long as it's within the budget, we'll make a recommendation to proceed. You don't have to go through the bid process with regard to that state contract vendor, and I have a little bit more control with regard to the vendor. Otherwise, you're going to bid it under the local public contracts law, and you'll award it to the lowest qualified contractor. The roof replacement itself will probably take anywhere from 4 to 6 weeks, and that doesn't include any replacement of rooftop units.
And the rooftop units are probably about 10 months out.
Yes.
And then on top of that, we have to add to fit in the schedule.
On a good day, yes. So as I say, we've been, with regard to roof replacements that include rooftop unit replacements, we've been bifurcating that approach. So either you have a choice, either you say, look, if I in an ideal world, I'd replace the roof and the rooftop unit at the same time, right? This way I don't have to do anything after I'm done with the roof. However, given the variance between the lead time for the roof products and between the rooftop units, either I'm going to wait 10 months until I get the boxes, or I'm going to do the roof first to mitigate the leaks, and then I'm going to put the box on when I get it.
Any other questions?
I'm waiting for hard questions, no hard questions.
And just so everyone's
You'll
aware
get
as
'em.
well, we do have water damage, and that really cannot be mitigated until we stop the leak, because if we remove everything, it's just going to come in that much more.
That was going to be my question. I didn't want to take up the architect's time. So once we get to that point, are we also going to do mold remediation as well?
Yeah.
So then once that's all done, then we're going to do the assessment of the damage inside. And while this all happens, we have to find a temporary location for the department to be in.
We haven't gotten that far yet, but there's that possibility.
Thank you.
Mayor, thank you very much.
Thanks, sir.
Have a great evening, thank you.
Okay, we have a resolution, R 2023-230. Michelle, will you read the resolution and setting the date to pay?
This is a resolution setting the last date to pay third quarter 2023 taxes before interest will accrue.
Do we have a motion to approve, or do we have any questions? Motion. Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Do a roll call. Okay, roll call. Michelle?
Councilmember Riley.
Yes.
Councilmember Vecchio.
Yes.
Councilmember Pepperoni.
Yes.
Councilmember McNamara.
Yes.
And Council President Davidson.
Yes.
Thank you.
Do we have to open up the discussion? No, nothing. We can do workshop items. Okay. We're going to go right into the workshop items for discussion. The first is amending the police department ABC registration requirement. Do you have any discussion from the dais?
I just have some questions. I see that the change in language is, it seems like it used to be anybody who worked in one of these establishments had to register with you, and now it looks like it's security and management and not the majority of others. Is that a state thing?
Yeah, so these are best practices recommended by the ABC. So we wanted to have our ordinance match the best practices from ABC, and we just found that our ordinance was missing like a couple words, and they should match what the best practices from the state ABC enforcement rules.
So did we used to do all employees who serve liquor in establishments? That's the wording that was there.
Right, we did.
That we did?
Yeah, and it
you
should
don't think that's
specify.
necessary? You don't think that's necessary anymore? Or
I think we need to go exactly by the best practice of ABC, and this pretty much includes everybody, because it does specify, because we've had people say, well, we work in this capacity or that capacity, and it wasn't on there, or maybe it didn't include direct contact with alcohol. So we just changed, like we were missing a word. We were missing the word "or serve." So I think this is a better way to match what ABC says. This was our recommendation.
Okay.
I don't think it excludes anybody,
Mhm.
but I think we need to up our wording to match exactly what the best practice for ABC, the ABC handbook says.
Okay. Separate from that, I just have a question with the ABC. I know the pocket licenses haven't come up yet this year, and I'm just wondering if anybody's gotten any information on those. I mean, they're probably hanging out there for about 4 years now.
No, I mean, I don't know if that's for this.
Yeah. that's not good.
Mm-hmm. I guess since I put ABC as one of the things to bring forth, I'm just kind of like throwing it into the conversation.
But I don't think
have to
that's
look at
this
it for
workshop,
the
right?
ordinance.
This is just for the ordinance for that. But I
Okay, so if we
think-
can put that then on a future workshop, that's still outstanding, I think.
Yeah, we still have that. Anybody else have any questions with that one? Okay, let's move on to the next one. We have the workshop amending the water and sewer regulations. Any questions from the dais?
Do we want to like go down the row and see if people have been? I mean, I feel like, I don't know.
Well, if anyone has, you have anything, I mean, does it matter if it goes down the road, or we just?
All right, so I'll
Go
start.
ahead.
Okay, I guess on the water sewer, the decision seems to be, are we looking to have the homeowner be responsible from the main all the way to the house, or that the borough does the main to the curb and the homeowner does the curb to the house? Is that what we're trying to figure out?
Right, yes. Since I've been here, have been some sewer lateral repairs and replacements. When you go back into the history, it's different locations from where it is that we say we own. And looking at the current ordinance, it actually doesn't specify who owns what. It says it on the water side, but not on the sewer side. And that's not interchangeable. It doesn't match in the code. So what I'm trying to do is make it that everyone knows who owns what, because right now it's very hard for us to budget or a resident to budget, right, if they don't know how much the lateral is theirs. Polling everyone, it seems to be that there are two choices, right? It would be the borough owns, there's probably actually three. The borough owns everything, homeowner owns everything to the main, or you can do the curb to the main. You don't want to do the clean out to the main, right? Because not everyone either has a clean out. Clean outs might be in different locations, so it's still a tougher time to figure out what you need to do. Everyone seemed to more or less agree curb to main would be the borough, curb to home would be the homeowner or establishment owner.
Okay.
These are just things that I just want to start cleaning up as I come across them.
Yeah, I mean, I guess I was concerned that there was a possibility that there was a thought of doing the whole thing to the homeowner, and I guess on top of the 15% water sewer increase last year.
Right, it wouldn't be fair.
Really didn't sit well with me, you know?
It didn't sit well with anyone. I have
Yeah.
to say, everyone's response was they tried to make it as fair to the resident as possible. And I agree. But at the same time, we have to make sure that we function and we don't go into a deficit with our utility. So that's my suggestion, is to intro the ordinance as soon as we can. That way we have on the books who owns what.
Okay, I guess my last thought would just be, as I went through all this, I just had that momentary, I live on a street that hasn't been paved in probably over 25 years, and who knows what's underneath, and then somebody else who lives on another street, right, that just got all new water and sewer lines and laterals. If they were the ones who owned from the main there, they would have a new line, and like I wouldn't, and how is that, you know, so I'm happy that the consensus is, you know, to the curb. So that's the proposal that you're going to introduce then?
Yes. Any other questions? Move on to the next. We have the workshop on the Harbor Commission bylaws, and I just wanted to ask a question to Councilwoman Vecchio. Has the Harbor Commission actually seen the revised changes or no?
They have been sent to them, and I haven't heard any negative feedback on it yet. Our next meeting is the day before our next council meeting. I asked if anyone had anything to bring tonight, and I didn't hear back yet.
Okay, do you have any questions on the Harbor Commission bylaw changes?
Of course.
And most of the changes that are on here were because, according to council, we needed to have, like, our attorney counsel, I mean, they were needed to be made.
Councilwoman McEnroe?
So, I guess if I look at our ordinance is very short on this topic, and it does give them the ability to have their own bylaws. I guess my comment would be, there seems to be things in the bylaws that are already in the ordinance, and I personally would not keep them in, because sometimes the things don't match up, like, there's nothing, like the ordinance says anything over $500 has to come before mayor and council. The bylaws don't. There's things about the borough council at any time can basically recall somebody. But then later in the document, there's something that says the members of the commission can get rid of somebody. So I guess that stuff just seems confusing to me. Who is responsible for what and that type of stuff. There's things in here about attendance, and I have notes from like 2 years ago when we looked at this, and there was a conversation that came up that issue with if somebody missed some meetings, that is not in accordance with the state established statute. So I guess that would be something to just take a look at if we can actually have that in there. And yeah, again, I mean, I guess I would think that we would want to streamline it so that there's not potentially in the ordinance one language and in the bylaws another, like really go through with a
Yeah, my biggest issue was I didn't want them purchasing things without following the local public contract law, and then we have a QPA, so
right.
that was the biggest.
So do we not need to put a limit in so they, no matter, if they buy a $5 item, they still have to come through? Is that,
Yeah,
so then the ordinance needs to.
So, yeah,
I wanted to do that too, but I first wanted to get the bylaws done and we could do the ordinance. I want to get your feedback too.
Right.
I was going to send you all revisions. So what I can do now with those statements, if the council, if you all agree, I will make some of those changes you noted to the, and introduce a revised ordinance, revise the ordinance related to harbor. Based on feedback.
Then as of right now, the purchasing policy for the borough, everything comes before the administrator or QPA for signature.
Right, so
Every
that would be the, after you clean up
Every
the
purchase,
ordinance.
Every purchase.
So based on all your feedback tonight, since we're workshopping it, I will then go ahead and revise the ordinance, introduce another ordinance to revise the code as it relates to the harbor commission, so everything is consistent. Because this, you're correct, the bylaws do go like a little bit, in a they're broader too. I don't
Oh,
think,
yeah, they're much more
like, I
extensive.
don't think you
Right.
need to, take every single one of these bylaws and then introduce it as an ordinance either, because they have a right to do bylaws, so.
Mhm. Right, but just where there's differences to
Clean it up.
make sure that they match.
So I wrote this down, but if you want to email me too, I'll communicate that to everyone based on your comments and send it around if there's anything else. We'll do that.
You're welcome.
Anything else I should add?
Perfect.
Thank you.
Mayor,
Yes.
I'm sorry, can we backtrack to the sewer ordinance again, water and sewer?
Yep.
I apologize. Kim, can you, I'm sorry if I'm missing it, I truly apologize, but can you show where it says in here that it's curb to home for the homeowner? Because I'm not seeing that language explicitly in there, or is that to be added and clarified for the next draft? And then also the $170 charge, I forgot to ask that before, is that something we've done in the past where if the problem that's existing right now? So if it's a problem that they come out for and it's not the borough's property, we're charging the homeowner $170 for them to come out?
I mean, I can't say if the borough's done it in the past, but that is the ordinance and it should be done. Yes, I didn't write that into the ordinance. That's existing.
Do we have any idea if we've ever collected that money from any homeowner ever?
I can try.
So I read A and B to mean what it mean, what, I mean, we can make it more simple.
I would
But
like it to be more
that's-
simple. It seems a little, I was going through it and I'm like, wait a minute, I know this is what we all discussed,
Well,
but
I will add, what I can do is I'm not going to change the language because I think for property purposes, this is the appropriate language. But I will add that, in other words, like I could add that to each section to make it clear.
So we won't be able to introduce that ordinance tonight, play that out? Okay.
That hasn't been covered.
Yeah, 'cause the 170 is underlined, so that looks like it's a new part.
that's why I was questioning that.
But you didn't add the 170, the 170 was in there prior.
But I probably put it all in there because I rewrote the whole section.
So if
Do
it
you
was
not
in
want
there,
the
we may not
170?
have
Is that what it
been
is? We have to pay call-outs to the employees as well.
I'm on the fence. I understand it, especially if we have excessive call-outs or, but if there's, if we haven't collected it thus far, maybe it's up for discussion considering how high everything is right now. But then I do understand we have to pay people for going out there. So maybe that's,
Which
I don't know if
that
anybody-
then it's the resident still paying it. We have to balance the budget, so I think just next year they're paying it.
does anybody else
But
have
of
other thoughts? I'm sorry to bring that back up and out of order, but.
Anybody on the council have any other questions on that 170? Do they want to revisit it?
Well, 14.219 is just that.
Yeah,
So it doesn't have anything about a fee at all.
So the fee was added, it wasn't there before?
Yeah, the section that's here, 14.2.19 is 3 lines in the existing ordinance, and this is,
much longer.
this is a page and a half, 2 pages.
I can check and see if the sewer operator actually wrote that in as well, because that, he reviewed it and put stuff in as well, so maybe he added it. But either way, if you don't want it, then not have it.
You know what, the other thing is, okay, I'm gonna look, because there's also here, so the code, like if you look at the code book, I don't know if this is, sometimes it's not fully updated. so then you have to refer to the
Mhm,
ordinance.
right, so yeah, there were two ordinances that were updated, passed here. One had to do with the water sewer tax increase, and I'm trying to remember what the other one was. I think I even know.
For demolition permit.
Right. Yeah, so we don't charge for a demolition permit anymore. We used to. That seemed odd to me why we wouldn't if we
Well,
did.
UCC charges on their end for the permit. Is that what you're asking? If it was a separate sewer charge, is that what you mean?
There used to be a payment of a fee to obtain a demolition permit for $75 for natural gas, electric, and telephone utility companies, and $300 for all others. And the council revised that provision or remove it. So it's not in effect anymore. Thank you.
Okay, anybody else before we move on?
I'm sorry. Wait. So in 219B, it says that the local property owner shall have ownership of the entire service lateral from the building to the main. Wasn't it supposed to be to the curb?
It'll be to the, yeah, it'll be to the, it'll be curved to the mean. Yeah.
Next we have is the workshop on the management of the parks and waterfront. Do we have any questions from the dais on that? Or any discussion?
Late fees, $10 per day for applications submitted less than 60 days before the event date, paragraph C. So who's collecting the fees? So across the board, I know we've had this question before, so we're going to impose another fee, but who's collecting the fees? And who's going to be making sure that they're, number one, collected or that they're even necessary? So I have a concern with that. I don't,
Well, the administration is in charge of implementing these ordinances. Anything you enact, that's why like when everyone comes and asks you to act as a construction official, I always say, no, I don't, you guys don't act like that. So that's the job of the departments.
I understand
So the
this.
administration should be done.
And I do get that, but are we collecting fees right now? We're collecting fees from all the events that we're having. We're collecting fees from the farmer's market. So I guess the question is, if we're going to impose another fee, what is our process and procedure for collecting the fees to make sure they're being collected or not being collected?
What is your process?
The person comes, they fill out an application, and they pay the fee when it gets processed.
So if they,
Finish with their application.
so if they put the application in late, then you'll impose the late fee, and then they'll get charged that way in addition to any other fees they have to pay, and then you'll collect it that time.
Yes.
Paragraph E, I was just thinking that, again, unless I missed it, do we need to put down on paper a rain date, if a rain date is needed, or an alternate date?
You guys.
Yeah, I know.
Oh, section.
Special events.
Special events.
Oh, did I jump ahead?
Yes, I thought.
Well, it's all part of
No,
the,
it's not?
you're on special events.
I'm so sorry.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
That's why I was looking at
I
that.
didn't understand that.
That's for
Okay.
discussion only, because we don't have
Sorry,
ordinance,
Renee.
but I need feedback on this one.
Well,
Okay,
I have some questions on this one.
On which one?
On the one we were just discussing, management of parks and waterfront.
sorry about that.
That's okay. For the paragraph 4-11, use of vehicles for sleeping purposes, does that cover the skate park and also the trail? Or how does the trail work? Monmouth County Trail?
Well, we regulate what we can regulate, and you, everything. Right, Chief?
It says in here, any public or private lot or premises in the borough, so it would cover all those.
Even the trail, if they're sleeping on the trail, which is right behind the skate park?
Yeah, that would cover the heading, that's a public
Okay.
lot.
Okay. Then I
Right
also
away.
have another one on page 28. No person shall build, start, or make any fire in any portion of the beachfront. does that also include grills and, propane grills? Because that has happened.
It's good to put that wording in there. I think that's a great suggestion to add that in there as well.
Okay. And then I had on page 29, I didn't see any spot for Beach Park where no drive on the beach. And the reason that I say that is because this week there was somebody with a Range Rover on the beach.
That's a good point.
So I think we should add that portion in there.
One of them,
I love
is it M for Cedar Street? Is that where I saw it? I did see it.
It was on Beach.
no operating.
There was something in the ordinance for one of them. That's why I was trying to.
Yeah, I didn't see it on the part for Beach Park, that's
We
why.
can maybe word that like no motor vehicle, because
Yeah.
you don't want a quad, you don't want all kinds of things going on the beach.
Yes, and then one over there, yeah. I couldn't remember which, Cedar or Beach.
And then do we need a sign there that says no park, no driving on the beach? The reason I'm
I
saying.
know, everybody needs a sign for
You know, if they don't know, they don't read the
Yep.
ordinance, I mean, it's just something because I did see it this week.
And definitely, once this ordinance gets developed and goes through, we'll definitely need some new signage to match.
Anybody else?
I'm gonna add the note, because I tried to, so that you didn't have distinguishing, like this park you do one thing and that park another thing.
Right.
I tried to put it all under this beachfront and waterfront area, so I'll add the no driving, even though I do believe it's somewhere else. I'll just add it.
Yeah, but I think it was only specific,
Yeah.
because if you go to recreation, the only locations mentioned right now are Cedar Street and Beach. It doesn't go into all the other parks. And I appreciated that addition of the beachfront, waterfront thing, but I feel there's a disconnect that all those rules apply to all those parks, because it still then breaks those two parks out, so, like, somebody could read it and be like, oh, you're only not allowed to do those things at Cedar Street and Beach. You could do it at the, like.
Well, that's why I defined it to include all of them.
Right, but it doesn't, where does it say that you can't do those things there?
Then you would go, so section 426, beachfront, waterfront, because I had the same total sheet.
Right.
I included every single park that you have defined, plus any other ones I can see on the maps. And I defined that to be beachfront and waterfront. And then, this is when I did all the rules and regulations and defined all of them. So
Okay.
that it could, now you don't have that confusion, because I agree, like, some things seem to be prohibited in other areas, which might suggest you could do in others, which I don't think was the intent.
And I think the mayor brought up the point about Main Street, which is not included in this. So Main Street, Teresa Street.
Right,
Yeah.
this is why workshop is,
Trail.
yeah, it's great.
Yeah.
I think this was the basis, the
Right.
bones, and now we're just
Yeah.
adding some
I
great
mean, we should
suggestions.
add them all, right? I mean,
Yeah, anything
Add
else
them
I missed.
Well, you also have the Kearney Street Park.
uh-huh.
All parks.
Question with the vehicles for sleeping purposes. I know especially by where I live, I see, there's a fair amount of residents who, I wish I had one, but they have like nice big RVs and they're in their driveway. But I also know that sometimes people come to visit people who live in town that have an RV and they go in somebody's, in the driveway. Does this prohibit somebody from, my cousin showing up with an RV and putting it in my driveway and sleeping there for a week? It does, right?
It does.
Because
No.
it says private lot.
No person shall anytime use any
public or
automobile,
private
truck, or
road.
private lot or premises in the borough.
I think we can change it to do quasi-public,
I could say this shall not apply.
it shall not apply to a driveway or a residence.
Okay.
But it won't be on the street and hook up to
Specify.
sidewalk.
It's on the driveway, wouldn't it not be public anyway?
Yeah, but it says private lot.
She's concerned because the wording of a private lot.
If someone could
Which
be
is-
parked in a private lot and sleeping, and you want to be able to police to have the ability to address that situation.
Right, because it could be like a church parking lot, which is private.
Quasi-public.
Oh, okay, so if you make it residential or something,
Quasi-public is a
Yeah,
good
okay.
word to use.
okay.
So it's not overnight overnight sleeping. It's anytime sleeping, so nobody can, because I don't see overnight
For sleeping or living purposes.
That's when the park closes, it doesn't say anything about overnight sleeping.
Yeah, it's, right now it's at any time.
Just says for sleeping or living purposes. I mean, understand that all these are, you know, the officers have to, their quality of life issues, and the officers will approach it and use discretion too. They're gonna use their human, you know, if a truck driver pulls over and says, I'm exhausted and close my eyes, we're not gonna give them a ticket for
That was
closing
one of my
his
questions.
eyes.
That was my question.
Yeah.
But they have the ability.
But if somebody is abusing it and parking there every day, and the residents or the business owners can't get, you know, people in their businesses because somebody's taking a truck and parking, then we know.
So if I go sit in my car in the sunshine by the water and it puts me to sleep,
Yeah.
That's it. One blink. No, it's not, that's not the purpose for it. The law is written, but you always have to know the intention of.
Okay.
So since
Why there's
the waterfront is Green Acres, right? How does that relate to this?
They
We still
they
have it.
still have
We
the
can still
ability
enforce
to,
it, but we still have to, just making sure.
you wanna say something?
No, just with Green Acres, it's basically everything's gotta be fair and equal to all
Yes,
New
okay.
Jersey residents.
Perfect.
It can't be residential versus people that don't live in Keyport.
Okay, just making sure it's got it. Okay.
The dressing in public streets or public places. I know we had issues in the past couple of years over on Broadway and Washington Street with people coming back from jet skis, getting changed in the street in front of people's houses and stuff. So I'm glad to see something like that being addressed. I mean, I would imagine it's okay for people to get changed in Porta Johns. I don't know, like, what do you do with people who come back from?
We're not gonna look in there. Yes, I think that's okay.
Okay.
That part is pretty specific to along, you know, along the waterfront of the borough, beachfront, water adjacent there too. So what if they go to Kearney Street between, you know, Elizabeth off the water? So does it need to be more clear that it's just, you know, there's no one dressing randomly in the borough?
I mean,
ideally,
there's other
let people know
statutes
this.
for
No, but it
movements
says-
and such, but I
Should
think
regular
this
statutes.
It says, yeah.
is
That's why it's
specifically to address quality life at the waterfront
water
area
specific,
and
okay.
parks.
Within the boundaries of the
Yeah,
borough.
but no one could be walking around
There's
there.
additional statutes.
You have a seven Sandy Hook.
Now you move into a criminal element and there are two, if you wanna walk around the borough, we'll address that as.
So I have one more question on this. For the, so there's nothing about no smoking. Should that be in here? Because that does affect quality of life on the waterfront.
We already have it.
Separate, yeah, we have a
That
separate.
was
ordinance.
last year.
Doesn't have to be
year.
into this
No.
one. Okay.
Yeah, when we did the wedding,
Just making sure.
You don't want to start
yeah,
putting
it was part of that change.
We had that covered.
I'm guessing this is a typo. No person shall remove or lower any party of his or her bathing attire. So, I mean, they can make it a party, but I'm guessing we want there to be party.
You don't party, bathing suit, but.
I don't want to go any further.
Yeah, that's just but these have to be cleaned up, it's the bones of it, this is just suggestion of like what we feel would raise the quality of life over there, so. Yeah, please change the.
I think it's great.
And I love like noise stuff, but is there some place in our code where we address loud cars and loud music? I see that there's stuff in here.
So there is addressed in Title 39, there's a muffler ordinance and such. I can't go above and beyond what Title 39 does really, because they're establishing the ground rules for motor vehicle laws. You can't start kind of offsetting the Title 39 statutes and creating more statutes so that if you did like a loud vehicle, that would be subject to interpretation. You're kind of leaving us open for lawsuits and such with that stuff.
But for this, we do set a decibel.
We do not have decibel.
No, in this, for the, at the parks, no person shall be permitted to play or operate any device that emits a sound amplification in excess of 65 dBA. I did a little decibel homework today and
No,
see.
I got that from like all the beach towns,
Uh-huh.
because that's what they are doing.
That was the recommended, like.
No, that's anytime.
So,
I think it's on the beach now.
but isn't your, like us talking, isn't that 78 decibels?
It's 65 to 70, yeah, normal conversation.
So people are gonna have to tiptoe to not make noise. That's kind of low.
That was the recommended, if you want to change it, you can take it out.
Take it out.
So for any noise, 68?
Sound amplification.
I don't
What are
know
you
that,
considering?
I mean, I have
It's
to,
a device
I remember
that
that's up to the person that's enforcing the ordinance on, you know,
Because the other issue is, they're gonna say, where's your sound device?
your decibel reader, yeah.
Right.
Yeah, and we don't have an accurate.
So I could change that to be in a manner that emits a sound amplification in a manner that disturbs, and I'll use
General.
I'll use language from your existing ordinances on noise.
I mean, believe me, there are times you go to the beach and you wish somehow there was a rule to tell the person
There
within
is, there
20
probably
feet of
is.
you
A
that you
lot
don't
of
want to
big
listen to what they're
towns are
listening to,
adopting
you know?
that.
There is county statutes that could be referenced.
That's, and then, yeah,
Okay.
that's exactly.
That's where the 65 comes from.
oh, really?
And yeah, that's why we took this, like, this
Yeah.
wasn't our idea of what, you know, where we're gonna get these decibels, but this is what some of the towns recommended that constantly have this. Because I know it can,
It allows you to have control, I think.
it does, again, it's all subject to
Mhm.
discretion. But it allows.
I'll use the language that's in section 4-2.1. You have a noise section under the vehicles.
That'd be great.
But we would want this in all our parks, because again, in I here, it specifies any section of the beachfront, waterfront area. So, I mean, we would want to include all our parks, right? I mean,
Yeah, it should be all.
yeah.
It should be all.
Residents live close to each park, and we're
Mhm.
really a 1 square mile town, so we really do have to have
Yeah.
something to really police this.
Mm-hmm.
And now, is this only if people are complaining? Because if there are kids at the skate park playing music and it's not bothering anybody, can't they just play their music if it's not an issue?
I mean, again, it's all subject to what's going on, but no, I can't tell you that it's okay to violate an ordinance. I would not say that here. Like, oh, okay, you can violate the ordinance as long as it's not bothering anyone. I don't have the power to do that. You know, we're law enforcement. So that's why, and you guys are essentially the policy makers. So we'll bring some suggestions to you guys. You know, we do understand that's why humans wear these uniforms. We do have, you know, the right to not write a ticket. We're not robots and we're going to say, we have the right to give a warning. We have the right to monitor it and see if the situation warrants an ordinance summons. I would never say it's okay to break the ordinance, but I do say that, you know, we do have the right to warn or to monitor the situation, see if it's causing an issue.
In the, I know we just went through that, but it's at discretion, so let's see. At discretion, but prohibited hours, no person should be in beach park, including gazebo, between the hours of 10 p.m. and 6 a.m. I understand the overnight aspect of that, but we had a beautiful night the other day, and there were people all over the place, and I was out driving, and there were people just sitting, relaxing.
I'm sorry, you're talking about.
Am I in the wrong spot again?
Under recreational facilities in the same thing.
Oh, I'm in the right,
Yeah.
okay.
Oh, good, yeah.
I think I'm.
I'm like, wait, am I in the wrong spot again?
No, it might be me. Where
I
are
was
you?
just told to put, yeah.
Chapter 11,
Page
record
29.
11-2.2.
Bottom of.
Okay.
No person shall be in beach park, including the gazebo, between 10 and 6.
Because we just said, you know, we can't we can't ignore it because it's an ordinance.
Yeah, but there's probably some reason we want to keep that in there.
Yeah.
Yet the fishing pier, you can be on till 11 o'clock at night. So I think there just needs to be some consistency, right? So if we're going to say the fishing pier can be on till 11,
Yep.
and what about the gazebo at the waterfront? Is it
Take it
just
till
not the gazebo in Beach Park?
Well,
Like,
I think consistency is good. I think
Yeah.
we could do 11 o'clock.
But that wouldn't include if it's a movie night and the movie goes till 11.
And then, yeah, that
Well,
would.
and remember, council always has the ability to bypass.
Yes. And that's a
An ordinance.
special, that's a recreation event, so that
And
would
the
have
borough.
the timing on there.
Right, it's a borough
Yeah, because I think the recreational facility section is tough. As I mentioned, it only addresses Cedar and Beach. It doesn't specific, and so that becomes these gray areas. Yeah.
So we're gonna do 11 PM to 6 AM?
Yeah, I think that would work. Satisfy the point of what we're trying to accomplish.
There is a note in the existing ordinance for the fishing pier that says from November 1st to March 31st, you can't be there from 5 PM to 8 AM. I guess that's because it's dark. I mean, I don't know, does get that, November 1st, is it
It does
dark
get
at
dark.
5 o'clock?
It does.
So, yeah,
It's probably
I
so
mean, that's,
old.
yeah.
Some of the ordinances are so old, I mean.
Right.
Is that something you want to remove when we update this ordinance?
It's in the
Or do it at another
recreation
time?
facilities someplace.
Okay. Or just,
Yeah.
just add the pier maybe to this part from 11 to 6.
Mhm.
While we're doing all these things with the waterfront, the shot of the officer with the kids last week, I think everybody loved. And I'm sure that everyone appreciates seeing them down there like that, so seeing more of
The
that.
It's a great shot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's just a quality of life for us all too, to see them down there.
Oh,
The
it's
thing, I do want to point this out, is that we don't always have the ability, I'll say this to the general public, we don't always have the ability to film ourselves. It happens every day. I can tell you today, 2 times, we were out and different things happened. We don't always have the ability, so we were very thankful that somebody captured that moment. The mayor actually captured that moment for us.
Just even seeing
to,
them
like,
around town, like it's
advertise.
such
We
a
appreciate
different
it.
thing.
But it does, it
Amazing.
is something that we always practice.
And that wasn't planned, but it's actually out
Yeah.
there when I posted it.
Although he did
So that
get
was really
a lot of feedback from officers about his throw.
Stick to being a cop.
Yeah, it does.
Okay, any more on
But
the
thank you.
parks and waterfront? Yeah, that's it for me. Okay, we're gonna move on to the workshop for special events permits.
Please try that, 'cause I'm like, oh. I was gonna try to make it already, so I'm not, I'm just
Lori, I think this is the one.
My comments still stand for before.
Yeah.
Yeah, just jumping the gun, it's really that exciting for me to worry about special events permits, yeah, so.
Well, and I do see language in here that says no less than 60 days before or within a reasonable amount of time. So I guess there's, if somebody were to come a month ahead of time and maybe it was a small event, I mean, I guess is the 60 days because of all the people that we like to get involved, right? It usually there's a big event form. And that usually goes to DPW and police and borough administrator. So you need a significant amount of lead time. But, I would imagine there could be cases where it's smaller and the $10 fee
It's
isn't
up
a
to
big issue.
what the administration really needs.
Mhm.
I just the task was to kind of create a special events permit. What I always do is first I look at what you have. We have like an application. We've done some things. When I get feedback on this, I look at other towns and look at other standards. Once you give me this feedback, we're gonna have to do a whole big revision. You all just did the fees. I mean, the big goal is to also address the fees issue, and incorporate it all into one new ordinance. So it's all in one spot.
So is that what's gonna happen then, that's gonna be merged into
Yes.
what we're doing?
But I need feedback from you on this.
That was my
Before
next
I-
question.
I don't want to assume anything. So, but just so you know, like I looked what you have, I looked at other towns, I looked at what, the police kind of need, what the administration needs. But if you guys don't want to have a late fee, you don't have to have a late fee. I just found that someplace and, the clerk's office is inundated, because that's where it comes first, these applications. And so they're doing other things, So maybe we should set a standard of like, we need to know in advance, which from my limited time here, it seems like everyone does do that.
Usually.
Yeah.
I have no problem with the fee. My question was, what is the policy? How are we maintaining it? How are we following up on it? And are we gonna stick with it consistently? Or is this something we're gonna start now, it's gonna drop off and fade out in a year or two because we get busy?
It's written in the ordinance, we have to follow it unless you guys change it.
So if it goes to what Councilwoman McNamara had said, if it's a small little event and they give you 45 days, are we charging the 15 days of late for not submitting in 60 days? That's, I think, what
Yeah,
you were
I guess
kind of
discretion there.
It's discretion, but
But
you
you
know
know
what,
what,
right.
you could just take it out.
yeah, because it would be whose discretion.
Well, it's the same thing with the clerk. She has the discretion as well right now about the gazebo and the ceremonies and stuff of that sort of thing. So it would fall into the size of the event, so I don't know if it means we take it out altogether.
I think it's just an administrative decision.
Yeah.
The other thing I was looking for is we do have, and it was submitted, especially from KBPC, very extensive event form that goes through a lot of stuff. I couldn't find it on the website though.
Oh,
The only one I found is the really short event form with
that's the one I
the
saw.
fee schedule stuff.
Yeah, that's the one that I see too. I don't see
Yeah,
the large
but
one.
there's that big one that has come from, different things, and I don't know where that is.
I know, are you talking about the one that the KBBC
Yeah.
uses?
Yes.
Okay.
Is that a
Yeah.
borough form?
No, that was just something that was
Was a draft.
drafted for that
Okay.
particular group because they have so many things that we have to address. for
Yeah, because I
their
know
events.
Recreation was using that form
They
too,
do,
but then I was
yeah.
like, where is it? I can't find it. Okay.
Definitely a better, it's got a lot more description.
It has a lot more detail.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
And then paragraph E, number 3, where we were before, I realized I wasn't in the right spot. The days and the hours, permits desired, do we
The
need to?
day.
The day and hours, excuse me. So do we need to ask the question if there's a rain date needed? Is there a spot for that or an alternate date?
It's a good idea.
Yeah, I don't know if that's on the bigger event form. It might be. No.
Then, when we're talking about fees, is that gonna work with our other ordinance with the different fees for resident versus non-resident?
Yeah, that's what we have to do.
Okay.
So merge all
So
the
that's all
stuff.
merged
Yes,
together.
that's basically, in the end, we're gonna get an ordinance that merges everything.
Yeah.
I need feedback on these things.
Right, all of these things that are on here.
Well, my feedback on that would be that I don't think we should charge borough nonprofits. Fire department, the garden club.
We don't charge the fire department.
Okay. The garden club, we try to charge, so I think any nonprofit that is a borough entity shouldn't have to pay.
Well, I think the charge had to do with not an event, it was like for a lecture series, I think, or maybe I don't think that they were being charged for like gazebo and mini park, but I could be wrong.
I thought at the beginning they were, and then we decided not to charge them. But I thought if we could put it in, then it wouldn't be an issue when it pops up again.
So how would we separate that? Like what would?
Borough nonprofit.
Borough nonprofit, meaning it's not a borough entity, like the garden club is really their own nonprofit, right? It's just in the borough people.
Yeah, I'm sure Vicki has language.
Yeah, they get they
right.
currently get a 50% discount on the rate.
All right.
So Melissa, just to be clear, so what you're,
I feel terrible charging people that are in our town doing stuff for us.
Yeah, can I just jump in real quick? One of the things that even nonprofit, like, I think they're great, and we definitely have the obligation to support all and provide public safety. However, with this, if they don't give us enough notice, it becomes hard to budget.
I'm not
for
talking about
things.
the notice though.
I'm saying 60, but even so, because we provide service for that.
But I'm just adding on to this ordinance that we're talking about changing, not to anything to do with the.
I agree with you. Just keep in mind though, like I'll say like AYF, they just applied us because we couldn't get a schedule.
The Buccaneers.
So we may not have always budgeted for this, and it becomes sometimes a stressful you really have to play around with how you're gonna work this out and how you're gonna provide maybe 2 officers down there for 7 days.
That's not a nonprofit.
AYF is
The Buccaneers are?
I think, yeah, there's,
It is.
yeah, but that's 7 days, 7-hour days. If, just keep that in mind, and I'm not saying that we, whatever, however, we just have to keep in mind that maybe then we need to get a good amount of notice, that's why at least 60 days is needed, and we need to budget for those things then ahead of time if that's and again, it's your pleasure, you're the council, you guys say, I'm just keeping in mind of what operations looks like sometimes for even
Well, we have
nonprofits.
a discretion to waive the fee also, correct?
That's a good, yeah.
So
put that
that's
in there.
at the council's discretion if we want it to waive.
I think that's what happens now. The events come before us, they have a request of waiving the fees, and then we discuss it.
Am I right?
Event by event.
Yeah,
Because
that would be,
the garden welcomes.
also, if there's an entity that is requiring additional police coverage, they should be able to
Cover the
pay
fee.
an off-duty fee. I mean, that we could adjust that as well.
If it's an entity that comes
Yeah, if
before
it's
us.
something that we require an officer to be on duty, if it was above and beyond. Right?
Yeah, I mean, there's just something to think about as far as the budget goes, that we still have to have, the person has to be paid to do that, and we have to budget for those things. We want them to happen, we want all these organizations to flourish and love playing in our town, but we have to be responsible enough to budget for whatever we're gonna do. But it does, your entities do provide services. a lot.
Yes.
I think that's what the fees really.
Yeah, they really do sometimes offset.
It's only resort.
I have a question too. On the certificate of insurance, does it need to state an amount on there? Or do we just leave it as the appropriate certificate of insurance if required?
Yeah, so different events usually require different amounts, so your general amount's usually $1 million.
Okay.
But if you have something with live animals, you might want $3 million. So it really, I mean.
Depends on the event.
Yeah, it does depend on the event, and we usually get discretion, we usually get information from our JIF on what they require. So that's where it says that the proper insurance, and we would get that through the JIF, that amount.
Okay. Any other questions on this one?
And if there's anything else before, final, shoot me an email so I can make sure it's incorporated.
Yeah, one more question. On page 32, number 9, a description of borough equipment or services requested. However, there should be no guarantee the services or equipment will be made available. But is that at a fee? Because
There might be.
Depends on what they
should
want.
So it should have that.
I'll put a fee may be required, an additional.
Right.
Yeah, like sometimes it's, do you need tables and chairs, do you need electric?
Right.
Okay. Thank you.
All right, so introduction of ordinance. Michelle, the first ordinance. Will you read the clerk by title, the ordinance by title?
This is an ordinance of the Borough of Keyport, County of Monmouth, New Jersey, amending sections of Chapter 6 entitled Alcoholic Beverage Control of the Revised General Ordinances of the Borough of Keyport.
Thank you. Do we have a motion to introduce?
Motion.
Second.
Michelle, will you do the roll call?
Councilmember Riley.
Yes.
Councilmember Vecchio.
Yes.
Councilmember Pepperoni.
Yes.
Councilmember McNamara.
Yes.
Council President Davidson.
Yes.
Thank you. Do we have a motion authorizing the clerk to publish the ordinance as introduced in the Asbury Park Press for the public hearing?
Motion.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, the second one is the ordinance amending Chapter 23, Board of Health Regulations, Section 23-8.
We didn't discuss
Oh,
that.
we didn't even discuss that one. That one's not even.
That was
I
discussed
thought
at
you
the
did it
last
already.
workshop.
We discussed it.
Okay, all right.
discussed it
Yeah,
already.
my email.
We did, okay.
Dave put the tweet.
Okay. Okay, Michelle, you want to read the ordinance by title?
This is an ordinance of the Borough of Keyport, County of Monmouth, New Jersey, amending sections of Chapter 23 entitled Board of Health Regulations of the revised general ordinances of the Borough of Keyport.
Thank you. Do we have a motion to introduce?
Motion.
Second.
Michelle, roll call.
Councilmember Riley.
Yes.
Councilmember Vecchio.
Yes.
Councilmember Pepperoni.
Yes.
Councilmember McNamara.
No.
And Council President Davidson.
I know we're in the middle of a vote right now, but the Councilwoman McNamara found something in this that we didn't discuss last time, it wasn't corrected, so how does that work? Like, we could vote no, and
We
it's
should
just,
vote no, and we can fix it before, depending on the type of change it is, it will depend whether or not we do a second reading. So, but we haven't voted, so why don't you vote?
No.
Okay. And then, you wanna vote on the
So this passes?
The
No, it
intro-
actually is a tie because we don't have,
any conversation.
it's three.
No,
Okay.
it does pass introduction.
Okay, do we have a motion authorizing the clerk to publish the ordinance as introduced in the Asbury Park Press for public hearing?
Conversation also about this.
Motion.
Do we have a second?
I'm sorry, I'm not sure where you're at right now.
Motion to publish.
Publish.
Second.
We're pulling it. Yeah, we did. Okay. Yes, we did. Two additional.
Which would be 5.
Five. All right,
This
so
has
that's,
3.
so that's
That's
what
why.
she, that's why the change.
Yeah, yeah, you-
So we'll
we just
publish
have to-
it with
we
the
just
change.
Publish it correctly, yeah. It's
We'll
published.
publish it at 5.
Right. Do we have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Do we have any no's or abstain?
We'll publish it.
So should I ask, are they going to?
So if we're motioning to publish it with 5, then
Yeah.
then that's a yes.
Yes,
Yes.
exactly.
Okay.
I said the three.
Yeah, I'm okay with that.
All right, good.
That's very good.
And we're pulling the ordinance for amending chapter 14, water and sewer, because we're gonna do some updates,
Yes.
so there's nothing we need to do at that one.
Correct.
Agenda items for the next regular meeting, public hearing, adoption of the ordinances that were introduced, consent agenda, approval of the minutes. Do we have a motion to open to the public?
Motion.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, anybody? John?
Chamarella, 34 Broad Street. Just want to bring to the council's attention to something that I brought to the council's attention in 2007, 2019, 2021, 2022, and 2023 regarding the roof. Good questions were asked tonight from the council regarding warranties on the roof. And it was mentioned by the architect, usually it's a 25-year warranty. I was here, I don't think there was too many others on the council with me here in this room now, when this building was built. When this building was built, we hired a clerk of the works, we hired a engineer, and we hired an architect firm to oversee the operation and the daily progress. Frank Grabowski was the clerk of the works. He reported to me and he submitted reports. When this units were brought in by a crane and put onto the roof, I've told every one of you at least 5 times, the cable snapped on the crane and the unit went through the roof. Okay, at that time, it was never fixed, it was never brought to the attention. There were reports from the clerk of the works to the council, and it was said that, you know, what had happened, what transpired, and Even as we speak today, 2019, the roof that's on there right now was under warranty. So we really should have fought a lot harder through our insurance company to go after the people that built the Borough Hall and have them correct the problem. I'm not saying that was the problem, but it could have been the problem. There's reports, all from professionals. The reports that you want to see are the people that worked for the borough during the construction, stating there was an incident in the borough. Okay, and there's no ifs, ands, or buts. I remember it like it was yesterday. The crane was parked out front, then another crane came from the back. Bobby Berlew called me and said this line snapped, the cable snapped, they just dropped the unit onto the roof and it punctured the roof. That was it. 2019, I came after a study was done and I told them that they really should check into the unit, all the units, that one of the units punctured the roof. It was explained to me then, and I'm explaining it now, as I've done in the past.
John, 1 second. You actually had contacted the insurance company already, right?
Yeah.
So it was never done previously with insurance?
No. So that was just something that I wanted to bring to your attention on that. With the roof, which I know is going to be a very expensive job. Believe me, the longer you wait, materials go up, labor goes up, everything goes up. I did bring up to the council's attention a couple weeks ago about the warranty for the water plant. Did we ever get a chance to look at that? The pump that we replaced, to see if the warranty under the construction.
We'll check on that, John.
Okay. Same with the water tower, the painting. I brought that up with the, it hasn't been 25 years yet since the water tower's been painted and it's loaded with mold. So that needs to be painted, but if it's under warranty, maybe we can get it and hopefully it won't cost the borough anything. I did try to get to the planning board meeting last Thursday and it was, I got there, it was too late, they left. I was going to tell the planning board that I opposed the extension for the Browns Point Marina job. And so I'm just going to relay to the council that I think you better take a hard look at the pilot, and I think you better take a hard look at giving any more extensions. As the planning board gets more and more applicants that have been approved 5, 6, 10 years ago haven't even broken ground, we haven't experienced the impact of the jobs that have been approved already, and the planning board is in a position to approve maybe more. So I really think we gotta do a list of the last 10 years, identify the projects that have been approved, identify the projects that have been started, identify the projects that haven't been started, and see and visualize, have your engineer do an impact study on, these projects, because some projects have not been started. And it's good to give someone an extension, but the reasons that they're given aren't the answers that you really would expect from a developer. That's a big project down there, and someone may have another project in town, and that gets approved, and then this project's not been approved, so we don't know the impact of the water sewer lines. Ms. McNamara mentioned tonight about they're old, so this can have an impact on everything. It's just something to think about. The floodgates, is there any update?
Actually, there's not, but
No?
I'd like that looked at too, because I know we've been back and forth.
The floodgates, meaning the grant that we put in for?
Yeah, the 2 floodgates that we have that aren't inoperable. And what are we gonna do about them? Should we take them out, sell them, get rid of them, or whatever? That should be something that we decide what we wanna do with them, because they don't work.
The other item, Mayor, was the lights on Lower Maple Place. They're still all out, and that was, they're owned by the borough. They were bought by the Neighborhood Preservation Program, and they've been out a while now. We're talking by St. Joseph's Church. both sides. I did discuss tonight with the engineer what I gave him a picture of the last storm that we had. I know everybody said it was a bad storm. It was. It lasted probably about 32 minutes, but the water on Maple and Broad on the depressed sidewalk was there for 24 hours later. So it's not finding a place to drain, and that's going to be a problem come this winter. I want to applaud this council and mayor for having the foresight of cleaning up Beach Park. It was used, it's being used. I was down there today, there was 30 kids. There was kids learning how to swim today. There were a lot of different people have utilized that. It looks beautiful, and it's going to be an asset in our community. Let's keep it clean and green, and it looks so beautiful, and I applaud you all. I also want to thank you for adopting the proclamation tonight that you did, and Ms. Vecchio, because overdose awareness proclamation is dear to my heart, and I'm glad you just did that. I do have one other issue, but I'm going to choose not to do it in public, but I am going to talk to the chief about an incident that happened on Sunday in Keyport, which could have been very bad, and so we'll talk about that another time. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Anybody else? Mike? Mike Lane?
Mike Lane, 51 First Street, Keyport. Regarding the developers' pilot proposal for Mariner Village Urban Renewal LLC. The 6/20, there was a request at the planning board meeting for a one-year extension of the variances granted for that. And part of that package was a 30-page document that outlined issues relative to the pilot. The package documented efforts to obtain a new financial agreement containing a pilot, long-term tax exemption. A couple of years ago, this council made an outstanding decision to eliminate the pilot from the initial financial agreement. But apparently, this applicant is continuing to negotiate with the borough and the special counsel for the redevelopment on a pilot agreement that's stated in this document. So who on the council and is working on the pilot terms, and why has this issue even been resurfaced?
Mike, Kim will answer on that one, because we actually have had several redevelopment meetings with John Cantalupo, our attorney, on the redevelopment, but she'll answer that.
Mr. Lane, the ordinance was already adopted, the financial agreement wasn't signed. The developer came back in to renegotiate the existing pilot that already exists due to different costs, different interest rates. It's not something that the borough or the council is taking lightly. Council President Davidson, Councilmember Pepperoni, and the mayor, we've had multiple meetings with our council, our development council, redevelopment council. We also have a specialist who does pilots, looking at the long-term advantages or disadvantages of if we updated the pilot. So there is, the best interest of the borough is going to be put at hand, and that's what we're working on right now. It's not an easy process. And I understand that sometimes pilots don't seem as though they benefit the borough. But if someone doesn't do their project and is able to sit, that also hurts the borough as well. So we need to see some movement on our projects.
But we haven't.
My
approved anything.
understanding is
No, there's
that
nothing.
we do not have a pilot, and the original financial agreement had a pilot.
Yes.
The Borough Council voted to eliminate that pilot. It doesn't exist. There is no pilot for this project.
Okay.
So I don't understand your statement.
There was a pilot
There
that
was original pilot. There was a lot of pressure from a lot of residents in town. Council made the decision to eliminate the pilot financial agreement. Matter of fact, a couple planning, council members got voted out of office based on their position on the pilot.
There is no pilot that exists right now, though. Like,
There
we
is
don't.
no pilot.
No, and even now, like, we haven't even agreed that there would be a pilot. We have a consultant doing the numbers to see if it even will benefit the borough by any means.
Well, I'd like to share a little bit of information with you about relative to the benefit of the borough. Just a little background. When the applicant first came in with his pro forma document, we put together a team of residents who looked at that document. And he, I don't want to say was dishonest, but he way overvalued the value of the property that he was contributing. He undervalued the rentals for the apartment units below what was the rentals on the Green Grove apartments, and his document didn't align with the architectural document. And so he doesn't have a good record. And I wanted to share that with you. Now, the other thing I wanted to share with you was, do you have any insight, 24 units at Harborview, what kind of taxes those units generate? Anybody looked at it? The top floor units, over $12,000 a unit in taxes. The second floor units, around $10,000 a unit. The basement level units, $9,000 a unit. And so these 24 units at Harborview already generate about $250,000 a year this year in taxes. If you look at his pro forma, we're not getting much more for 120 units. This project needs to be reworked. He states in his project, in his documentation, that the project is not economically feasible without a significant pilot to cover the increased cost of labor and materials. Maybe we need something more akin to what was built at Harborview, where all the units have a water view. Where we, instead of talking about 120 units, maybe we're talking 30, 40. Matter of fact, if you go back and look at the history, he's grown from he worked with Robbie Bergen back in, what was that, 2006? On a project. And every time he came in with an increase in the number of units. He's got to the point where he has a project that he cannot economically afford to build. His backers cannot afford. And we're going to give him a pilot?
We didn't say we're giving him a pilot. We're revisiting it with the redevelopment committee as well as our redevelopment attorney, and we actually brought in somebody to determine if this is feasible for us or not.
Who is on the redevelopment committee?
Councilman Pepperoni and Council President Davidson, and I've actually been sitting in on it,
All right.
as well as Kim and her attorney.
I would encourage you, the redevelopment committee, to meet with the team that worked on the first pilot, and that was so awful. And we can share a lot of data with you. We went and got all the rental rates for all the rental units in town and put them into a spreadsheet. And we looked at what he was going to charge for high-rise rentals overlooking the bay. And he was going to get less revenue than the rental units on Green Grove.
Well, Mike, that is one of the reasons that we actually have this consultant coming in to evaluate everything for us. We're not going to do anything that's going to jeopardize what income we can bring in as a borough, whether it's a pilot or whether it's through taxes.
Mayor, I'll share with you. A consultant came in and told, I think the consultant was paid for by the applicant. And said, it's all good.
Well, this one's not paid by the applicant,
Well-
so this is going to be for the best interest of the
All right,
borough.
we would like to work with the consultant based on our experience. And ask you to take us up, please.
Thank you. Anybody else? Elmer?
Elmer J. Graham Jr., 22 St. Peter's Place. Councilwoman Becky, I'm wearing my Wildwood shirt, so.
Look at that.
All right, there you go. Good seeing you down there last week. Roof goes, I definitely agree. The thing needs to finally be fixed, and it's about time and everything like that. Is there more than one proposal to fix the roof and stuff like that? More than one company?
We haven't even we haven't gotten that far yet.
Okay.
I do have a proposal that was received, so I have a cost estimate, which isn't disclosable to the public, but, you know, we want to make sure when we get bids in that they come in at that, about that number or less.
Okay, now, I understand the cost is going to be, I guess, quite expensive, but as long as it's reasonably expensive and stuff like that, and, you know, again, I urge you all to keep the taxpayers in mind in regard to this and everything like that.
Well, I think, Elmer, if you think about it, I mean, all these years, our police staff, as well as
Right.
our borough employees, have been working under these conditions
Oh, yeah.
for many years.
Oh,
So
yeah.
it's about time, and we would always keep
And
the
there's no excuse
taxpayer in
for it.
mind, but
Right.
we have to also think about our employees that are actually working here under these conditions for so long. So if we have to, we might have to go out to bond it, I'm assuming.
Yes.
Mhm.
And, you know, I'm sure that Tom Fallon, our CFO, as well as
Right.
Amy will, you know, look after the funding that we're gonna be spending.
Okay, and I know, one more thing, I know I plugged this before, I'll plug this place again, We Care Adult Care Associates, which I go to twice a week. I help them out, they help me out. Again, and their staff there is outstanding and stuff like that. And if, you know, any resident of Keyport who needs to go there, especially senior citizens, that would be the place I recommend. It's on Highway 35 in Red Bank, and plus it gives the caregivers a break. And they also have a Facebook page too. And like I said, their staff is second to nothing. Thank you.
Thank you.
Ron's planning a boat trip.
Elmer, I wanted to say something also for the We Care. You might want to post it on your site and also share it on some of the borough sites so that other people can hear it if they don't come to a council meeting.
Well, by urging them to come to the borough.
About the We Care, just so that they, you know, if you have, like a flyer that, or something that you can post would be nice.
What, urging one of the representatives to come to the borough council meeting, or?
No,
post it
no,
on the
actually,
We
I
Care.
spoke with them.
Okay.
They brought flyers and everything.
Okay.
Yeah, we dropped it off at all the building, but it would be nice on social media if you wanted to share it.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else? Do you have a motion to close to the public?
Motion.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. We are actually going into executive session.
Yes, so, whereas the Borough of Keyport, public body corporate policy of the state of New Jersey, subject to certain requirements of the Public Meetings Act, whereas NJSA 10:12 provides that executive session not open to public may be held for certain specified purposes when authorized by resolution, and whereas it is necessary for the borough to discuss in a session not to public attorney-client privilege matters related to cannabis litigation pursuant to NJSA 10:12(b)(7). Now therefore, be it resolved by the mayor and council of the borough of Keyport as follows: the aforementioned recitals are incorporated herein, and the mayor and council assembled in public session on August 1st, 2023, and determined that an executive session closed to the public shall be held on August 1st, 2023 at approximately 7 p.m. at the Borough Hall located at 70 West Front Street, Keyport, New Jersey, for the discussion of the matter related to the specific items as indicated above. This resolution will take effect immediately. Is there a motion?
Motion.
Second. All in favor?
We are in.
Is there any action going to be taken